Coming up on today's show, I played God of War Ragnarok, Brittany played Resident Evil 4 Remake, and finally, Silent Hill 2 Remake was announced. What's good, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the What's Good Games podcast, your source for video game news, commentary, analysis, and funny stuff. That's the important part every Friday. I am Andrea Renee, joined as always by Miss Brittany Brombacher.
Oh, it's a good day to be alive, Andrea. Lots of fun shit in the works.
I mean, it's a good day, especially for you, with the news that came out this week. Please welcome again to the show, Mrs. Riana Manuel Pena.
Ooh, that's so nice and official. Thank you.
And welcome back, Mr. Danny Pena.
Hello, ladies. I'm back.
So good to have you both. Thank you so much for being on the show. Danny, let's just cut right into it. It's been a hard week for you. It's been a hard week for you and your coworkers and friends over at G4. We just want to give you our love and give you a big virtual hug and go... It sucks, man. It sucks what happened. We're sad about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially finding out through a tweet instead of an email from the company, you know. So
where the fuck is humanity in 2022? I would just like to know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like when company gives people, like, their employees a heads up. You know, previously I used to work at Discovery Channel and we had the heads up a year in advance, so we knew things were going to change. But yeah, G4 no longer. That's it. It's officially over. They shut down, I think, the Pluto TV version just a couple hours ago. And people can still watch the linear version. I don't know for how long. And we still have our content up on YouTube, but who knows if that's going to last that long, too. So we'll see. But I was at the studio, actually, today with Riana to pick up my stuff and just to say the final goodbye. Because we had an amazing time creating content over there, and we made some cool. Can I curse?
Of course you can.
Oh, yeah.
It's what's good.
We made some cool shit together as a team, and I'm gonna miss that. I think most than anything else, and it was sad. I got really emotional. I haven't slept in 3 days. Actually today I haven't even eaten. I've been so stressed out with everything, but I know everybody's going to be good after this. It's just the chapter ends. The next chapter is going to begin from now on, you know? So, and the crazy thing about this, just last week, Andrew, I don't know if you're allowed to say this or not, but Andrew was at the studio because we were looking for a new host, and Andrea killed it.
Oh,
she did it in one shot. And I'm like, yes.
No one's surprised by that, of course.
Yeah. We were very excited about the opportunity to potentially work together, both you and myself, and of course, you know, Emily Jacobson, who we had on the show, you know, last week, and it was just wild how we saw each other on Thursday in the studio, and then the news broke on Sunday, like 2 days later. Just insane. Like, heart goes out to obviously both of you and you know, all of your friends and everybody else who was affected by this. Layoffs suck no matter how they're handled. Like, it's still it's still shitty, right? It feels bad, man. But having it happen that way and finding out like via the internet and like a viral news story is just so much more stressful and tormenting, because you're like, what happened? Who do I call? You know, do I have severance? What about my health care? What am I going to do about my paychecks? Do I have access to my desk? Like, all those questions that you're like, you have no answers to. It's just so awful the way that they handled it. So,
oh man, yeah, trust me, it was wild. And not only that, I had to contact all the gaming companies that I was working on a couple projects for the show. Actually, I was going to have Sonic Team. They were going to come from Japan and go to the studio. We were planning to do like a Sonic Frontiers special launch episode. We were just filming a project too with Ilphonic to celebrate the release of Ghostbusters. I know Emily and another producer, Jake, and the whole team been filming all week. Even that day that you show up, they were filming that day. And that was just a break that they took so you could go and record your stuff. And there was things too that I was planning to do with the show, man. Like, man, it's just like so much stuff that we did, man. It was so special to me, and now it's just gone. you know. So, but let's see what happens next. I'm glad that everybody been hitting me up. Andy, Britt, you know, Riana, my wife, has always been supportive, and all the friends from the industry been hitting me up, and just to check in if I'm okay, and I'm gonna be okay. It's just been rough for the first 3 days, you know. So
Yeah,
I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Well, and not that we, you know, need to toot your horn any more than we already do, but we will. You also have this amazing show called GamerTagRadio that is one of the longest running podcasts in video games that is alive and well. And if you guys aren't subscribed to Danny's show, wherever you listen to What's Good Games, just search for GamerTagRadio. You can find it and, you know, hit that follow or subscribe button and show him and his team over there some support. And also, you're making amazing content on Twitter at Godfrey, and you have some more, you know, some irons in the fire that I think you're not talking about yet, which is good. And of course, we're still celebrating the launch of your amazing children's book.
Yeah, it's been out now for like a month, right? So yeah, that's very exciting. You know what? I even had Telemundo again, another one for the morning show. They showed up and they did another segment. I think it's airing in a couple weeks, but I can't wait to see that.
You're such a badass, Danny. Damn.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just trying to hustle.
Well, you're not trying, you're doing it, dude. Look at you.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly. The definition of hustle. Danny's photo in the dictionary. Well, thank you for being on the show this week. When, you know, we heard the news, I reached out because I was like, I know that you've been playing a lot of these games because this is a monster week, not only just for news, but for previews. And of course, we're about to hit heavy review season going into the holidays. So I was like, hey, you want to come talk about some video games that you're playing on What's Good? So
let's do it.
So let's talk about some video games. I want to say thank you to this month's Patreon producers, Chewy, Godson, Alex Rigopulos, Faris Attieh, Justin Foshee, Punkdefied, and Matty Dray. And if you want to join our Patreon community and help support our mission in video games, you can do so at patreon.com/whatsgoodgames. And we have another announcement after we thank one of our new reviewers. How do you say this? Aderon, you think?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Aadderron. You, friend, left a very kind review, and we are very appreciative of it. Thank you so much. And if you want to, you know, support the show in a non-monetary way, feel free to leave us a review. We read them. They give us warms and fuzzies. The warms and fuzzies, sure, why not?
Both of
and
them.
They make us happy. I was telling Andrea and Danny and Reed before the show, ladies and gentlemen, that Andrea is smart. Listen, let's just call it out. And I'm over here drinking whiskey because it's been a day. And she's like, I would drink whiskey, but then I'm going to fall asleep. And I'm like, whatever, join me. And then not like 10 minutes later, I'm over here. She's like, oh, I'm dead. And I'm like, I'm 2 sips into this bitch. And I'm already like feeling like I might curl up on the floor over there.
I'm right there with you, Britt. I have my G4 mug filled with gin and ginger ale. So
Very nice. Very
Cheers,
nice.
baby.
Well, hopefully we'll get to some exciting news to perk you up.
Oh, yeah.
But before we jump in, today's show is brought to you by Factor, which we'll tell you more about later. Riana, I believe you have a little bit of news to share as well.
I do, yeah. So I have been sort of quiet on my goings on since I was let go from G4 back in May. Rest in peace. And my new gig actually started last week. So it was a little early to talk about. I was still figuring out, you know, what my exact duties and responsibilities would be. But I'm very excited to let everybody know I am the new director of brand and unified marketing at Zebra Partners.
Yay!
So proud of you. So proud of you.
Badass.
Thank
Two of you together. It's like you should get married or something. Look at you.
I know, right?
It's very exciting. We love the folks over at Zebra. I've known Perrin for a very long time. She is a wonderful mentor and leader for all kinds of people, but particularly a lot of initiatives for women in games. So it's really exciting that you're over there doing some good stuff with her and her team.
Yeah. I can't wait to get started. You'll hear more about what I'll be doing soon, but just very excited to share that with the What's Good family. And thank you everybody for being so supportive these last few months. It's been hard, and all of the love has definitely been felt and received. So thank you.
Good. And we want to make sure y'all know that Ree's going to kick it with us as often as she can. And we always knew that this was probably going to be a temporary situation, but we will take you as many weeks and as many months as you can give us of your time. So We love having you here, obviously.
Love y'all.
Now that we've got this introductions out of the way.
Jerk.
Yes.
Great.
No, it's wonderful. That's why, we're all about the positivity here on What's Good Games. Just doing a hard pivot from positivity to like horrific news. Oh, it's actually not horrific. It's news that we saw coming and talked about not that long ago. Silent Hill 2 has finally been revealed. The remake. Surprise from Bloober Team.
Wow.
This is probably the worst kept secret, right?
Absolutely.
Never
the
could have
worst kept
imagined.
secret. I do want to make a quick disclaimer that the Resident Evil Showcase is happening this week. Unfortunately, it's happening after we record. What I can talk about is Resident Evil, my hands-on in the hands-on section. But if there's any major announcements, we're not going to be able to cover it. So don't at me. But yes, anyway, like Andrew was saying, worst kept secret of all time. Everyone was hinting at it. I was actually kind of surprised that they flapped their little lippy flaps as much as they did and kind of gave it away that they were doing this and working on this. I remember a bet, Andrea, you and I had years ago. And it was, in the before times, maybe 2018, 2019. And I said, I think Konami is going to announce a new Silent Hill game this year. And you and I bet some bottle of alcohol on it, which I don't think ever came to fruition. So, I was 3 years off, but here we are. The day has happened. So this comes from IGN, and it's called Silent Hill 2 Remake announced from Bloober Team. First look at Pyramid Head. It's official. After months, more like years, of rumors and speculation, Konami is remaking Silent Hill 2. During today's Silent Hill transmission event, Konami showcased a 3-minute trailer that provided a look at the famously foggy town in 4K. In addition to providing glimpses of Pyramid Head and other notable elements from the original game, the trailer confirmed that Bloober Team will be handling development and that it will utilize the Unreal Engine. It will be a timed PS5 console exclusive while also releasing on Steam. I believe the exclusivity is a year. Masahiro Ito will provide the creature design while Akira Yamaoka returns as the game's composer. The trailer begins with a close-up shot of a cockroach, properly repulsive glamour shot designed to show off the game's graphics, followed by hero James Sunderland looking into a mirror amid a voiceover about his deceased wife. It's followed by familiar shots of Sunderland walking through the fog, glimpses of some familiar moments, and of course, Pyramid Head, who is seen hulking in the rain. Bloober Team, meanwhile, expressed their intentions to remake the game while also modernizing it. That includes adding an over-the-shoulder camera, among other enhancements. Quote, to put it simply, our goal is to make everything that made the game a timeless classic, but delve even deeper into the foggy streets of Silent Hill, said director Matwis Lennart, probably butchered that, so sorry, who previously served as creative director of The Medium. So again, I think this is the major announcement from the transmission events. Very exciting stuff. I think what I'm most excited about is I feel like I'm on the other side. And what I mean by that is when it came to Resident Evil and kind of the resurgence that franchise has had, I was always the one who was like, I've been playing this game since I was a little kid. Do not recommend. Do not let your children play that game. And now, I can recommend it to people. I can tell people why I'm so excited about the remake, and I can speak about it and, kind of nerd out over it. But when it comes to the Silent Hill IP, I'm very unfamiliar with it. I played it once back in the day, and I was way too freaked out. And it's a different kind of terror. Like, this game literally terrorized me to the point where I couldn't play it. So now this is kind of my chance to hop into it for the first time. So I'm really excited about it. Bree, I know you're probably effing out. Andrea, I know if you're feeling brave, you'll give it a shot. But Danny, are you excited about this?
Yes. Because I used to play the Silent Hill games back then. And another thing, too, I love Booper. I love their games, too.
Me
I love
too.
Layers of Fear, The Medium.
Yeah.
Very excited. Actually, I had them on the show to promote The Medium. And I asked them about, like, any games that inspire them. And that was one of the games that they talked about was Silent Hill. I'm like, They were just hinting the whole time. I see what the hell you were doing. But I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited to try it out again. And so this is going to be an exclusive for a year, right? On PlayStation. Okay, but it's also going to be available on PC too. So I'm probably play the PC version for sure.
So what are you really familiar with Silent Hill 2? Or is it just like something
not really.
Okay.
Not really. Not like Resident Evil, because it's been so long I haven't played a Silent Hill game. But I know there was a movie that came out similar to Part 1 years back. Like I think that was like in the early 2000s. But that's about it.
There was a Silent Hill movie, and then they released a sequel. And actually, one of the reveals today was that Return to Silent Hill is a new movie coming from the original Silent Hill director. So I think it's coming next year, supposedly. So if you're looking forward to that, cool. I think that one's based off of Silent Hill, too. Other quick notes to talk about here. I think that was a major announcement. So, there's Silent Hill F. This is a new game that was
That's
revealed.
a new game. To see that one, I'm excited to try that out.
Set in 1960s Japan. So, this is described as a juxtaposing a worldview of beautiful, therefore horrifying. Silent Hill F is being written by Ryukishi07, the acclaimed Japanese visual novel writer behind the Hirogashi and Umineko series. Now, I'm not familiar with those, but I know people who are just like creaming their pants right now over that. Apparently, that's very exciting news. Therefore, I am excited. So the atmospheric trailer shows a scenic but sinister Japanese town that's becoming engulfed in some kind of fungus. The ending of the trailer, however, is genuinely terrifying with a woman covered in fungus. The game is being developed by Neobarda Studio in China that has helped develop Capcom's most recent games like Resident Evil RE-verse. The producer is Motoi Akamoto, a Nintendo veteran. So you have some, stars on this game. No one knows what the F stands for. Another, again, interesting. This is good on Konami. I feel like this is a showcase that really came packed with lots of fun announcements. Like, I know a thing or two about the Resident Evil showcases that happened in the past. And while those were obviously an absolute honor to host, I know when it came to the actual announcements from those that, it was kind of lacking some of that fire. But with this showcase, I feel like they just got like announcement after announcement after announcement. The next one, this is an interesting one. Silent Hill Ascension is a live Silent Hill event coming next year. So this is in the works, and it appears to be some kind of live and possibly interactive experience in the Silent Hill universe. It shows images of chat bubbles from users discussing whether or not they could save, quote, her, and the segment ended with Live 2023. We learned that it's being made through a partnership with streaming software company tools generated J.J. Abrams' film and TV production company, Gaming Bad Our Robots, Day by Daylight Studio Behavior Interactive, so lots of folks. And essentially, it just looks like this was inspired by watching streamers play Silent Hill with their audience and the feeling of being scared together. It's a live, real-time interactive series where audiences can change the outcomes of the story. Looks weird as hell, but it's a thing that's happening. But, okay, Ree, are you interested in any of this, or are you just like hell to the no?
Well, I will say my guess is that the F stands for fungus. And
that is a very good guess.
Oh,
that Riana, she's a thinker.
Well, as Andrew was showing the B-roll here at youtube.com/what'sgoodgames, there was a moment where there was fungus coming out of holes in some body parts, which, triggered one of my phobias, which I didn't like that scene. But of all of these, I might tune in for Silent Hill Live. I really like those events like Twitch Plays Pokemon and things where the audience can actually impact the gameplay and, it's more interactive. So that one I feel like I could maybe tolerate because like we're all scared together and it's not just me by myself in my living room, like clutching my little pillow. So I think I might actually try it.
Okay.
Nice.
And report back.
I think that's great. And that's encouraging. I think this might be a good way for folks to get into Silent Hill again, who maybe are like, Pyramid Head nurses, hell no, stay the hell away. But if you see something like this, and maybe it'll slowly ease you into it, and maybe you'll become a huge fan, and you'll out-nerd me when it comes to horror content. LOL.
That would be something.
That is a very high bar to clear, but if anyone could do it, I believe in Riana. She could do it.
And this last one I'm very excited about. Silent Hill Townfall invites Annapurna No Code to shape the world of Silent Hill. So in addition to several other Silent Hill announcements that we've covered, today we've learned that one of the upcoming new Silent Hill entries is being co-produced by a surprising pairing, Annapurna Interactive and No Code Studios. It's called Silent Hill Townfall. The reveal consisted of a series of unsettling images. Most of the teaser swapped between images of ocean waves in black and white, and at the end bright red, and a slow zoom into a pocket CRTV while a voice demanded to know why the listener was here. There were no further details provided. And what I'm really stoked about is No Code made a game, and I wrote it down because I already forgot what it was called, Stories Untold. And I talked about this probably a couple years ago. And what Stories Untold was, it's a bunch of haunting short adventure. There's 4 little adventures in there. And it's a unique experience that I had never really had before when it came to video game and storytelling. And it's maybe only 3.5 hours to finish the thing from start to finish, and it's $9.99 on Xbox and Nintendo Switch. But No Code made this, and if they're gonna add that spin onto Silent Hill, I think again, like, that's an interesting medium to blanket the IP in, and it could, include people that maybe weren't interested in it otherwise. So cool. Bunch of like neat announcements from this thing.
They went hard, and
Yeah.
I think it's good that Konami came out showcasing work from a bunch of partners, because I think a lot of us in the video games industry have been watching their moves over the last 5 years really trend away towards video game development and towards a lot of other business ventures, particularly in the Japanese markets. And it's like, well, are they still making games? Obviously they are. You know, they have some sports games that are still continuing to do very well, but we haven't really seen anything in the AAA, narrative space or, action adventure space for quite some time. And so I think it's good that they're like, hey, we have this really, legacy IP. We want it to not die. So we're going to enlist the help of, some third parties to make some games. And I think that that's a really smart move.
Yeah. Did you see though, they, no shaming Konami. Like, listen, mistakes happen. We're all human, but they accidentally uploaded their stream as a VOD instead of a premiere. So when it went live, everyone just kind of like skipped past like the 5-minute countdown and hopped right into the content.
Oh, no.
What was so hard about it too is the event was supposed to go live, I think, at 1 p.m. At 12:55, they uploaded the video, which has a 5-minute countdown. But all these stories then started breaking before the stream even went live. So there was a lot of confusion because folks were able to like scrub through. The stream was even supposed to start. It happens. But, it would have been nice if there had been more like bang, boom, pop. Because all the other stuff had leaked too earlier in the morning. But it's fine. We got the content.
And it's out there. It's out there. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah.
It's exciting. Hey, listen, with Resident Evil 4 around the corner, we got Silent Hill back. We got Callisto Protocol, Dead Space. It's fucking rad.
It's a good time to be alive if you like getting scared.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of horror games. And Brittany, like right now is the best time. There's so many horror games that have been out. So many.
Oh man, then we got the Resident Evil Village DLC coming out. Like, it's just a good time. It's a good time to be a game.
Hell yeah. And wait, you girls got to record some stuff or stream live too, and post that online. Love to see it.
I would love to do that. For all the free time we have.
You don't have to make suggestions, Danny.
No,
you don't have to do that.
We would love to stream live. There is the small problem that is just over 2 feet now. There's two of them, actually, two problems. They both can't say their own names yet, but someday they will be able to, and they will be able to name themselves as our problem. So
it is the reason why the amount of Botox I get has increased. Just throwing that out there.
Give me all of the CCs. All right, so there is a little bit more news, but not a whole lot that we really want to dive into. We obviously talked about, the closure of G4 at the top of the show. There is probably some more news breaking, as Brittany mentioned, because of when we have to record. Y'all know this if you've been listening to What's Good Games for a while, that, sometimes we miss the big stuff. We have to cover it the next week. So what we do have is a lot of hands-on this week. So I think what we're going to do is take our first break of the show. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some really amazing video games that both Brittany and I and, of course, the Manuel Peñas are excited to talk about. Stick with us, everybody. We'll be right back. This episode of What's Good Games is brought to you by Factor 75. Fall is officially here, everybody, and with a new season comes a new routine. And if you're like me, sometimes you get sick of the same old day after day. But luckily, Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery makes it easy to switch things up with 30 meal choices per week, over 36 weekly add-ons, and an option to add protein, or you can select vegan and veggie meals as well. Now, whether I'm out and about all day or maybe I'm just cozying up at home with the fam, Factor's fresh, never frozen meals make it easy to fuel up fast with meals delivered ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. That's right, you heard me. Meals ready to eat in just 2 minutes. You guys can savor the harvest season with Factor's Pumpkin Feast for 2, featuring fall's most craved flavor, That's right, you guessed it, pumpkin. This ready-to-eat bundle helps you make the most of autumn with a full spread that feeds too. Date night, anyone? Pumpkin date night. That sounds nice and cozy, doesn't it? Plus, Factor has a rotating menu that has tons of fall options every week too, with seasonal favorites like 3-bean vegan chili, apple mustard pork chops, and Tuscan tomato chicken to spice up things in your meal repertoire. Not only do Factor meals save time, but they also will keep you satisfied. Their chef-crafted recipes are packed with restaurant-quality flavor, and they will also be dietitian approved. I know, it's almost unbelievable, right? Can it really be tasty if a dietitian is approving it? These are the questions for our time. Factor also has other things besides ready-to-eat meals, though. They have cold-pressed juices, smoothies, energy bites, extra protein, veggie sides, and more to keep you going during your busiest season. If you guys are hungry already and want to check out these ready-to-eat meals, head to go.factor75.com/whatsgood60 and use code whatsgood60 to get 60% off your first box. Don't forget about the go. That's go.factor75.com/whatsgood60 and use our code whatsgood60, that's 60, to get 60% off your first box. Welcome back, everybody. It is the second segment of the What's Good Games podcast. This is where we talk about what we've been playing and any preview events that we have been to. And boy, oh boy, have we been playing a lot of things for once. I feel like it's a bounty of riches for this week. So we are going to start with the game that I'm personally very, very excited about and have been excited about. And we can only talk about a little bit of. It's God of War Ragnarok. So thank you to Sony, PlayStation for giving us early access to God of War Ragnarok. We have a small sliver of the game that we can talk about as a preview, and then our full thoughts of the game are going to be coming later on, as we have mentioned on social media. So the official review embargo is November 3rd, which inconveniently is when Brittany and I are just coming back from being out of town. So stay tuned as to when we're going to be releasing that. And as you guys know, we are going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. And the review will be spoiler-free. It would be fun to do a spoiler cast for God of War Ragnarok at some point in the future. But I do want to just call out, if you did not play the original God of War, it's very possible there's going to be light story spoilers for you, and maybe even more than light story spoilers for you from the first game, because it's almost impossible to talk about certain parts of the game without mentioning things. So if you are truly trying to go in completely blind, or if you haven't played the games and you want to before Ragnarok comes out, maybe now is the time that you go to the timestamps in the show notes and skip ahead to where Brittany is, grunting about Resident Evil.
Oh, grunting, groaning, spitting, so many bodily fluids.
All right, you've been warned. So, Brittany, let's start with you before I start blabbering on. How many hours have you put in up until the cutoff point for the preview? How long has it taken you?
8.5.
That's almost exactly how much time I've put in as well.
Get the fuck out of here. Hey. Yeah. No, I mean, I've been doing as much side content as I could before getting to the cutoff point. And man, you know what's just so wild about it is I played God of War 2018 just once. That was 4 years ago. And hopping right back into Ragnarok, 4 years later, hopping into Ragnarok, it feels like I never stopped playing God of War. I don't know if you've had that same experience. It's all coming back to me, and it's all kind of clicking. And I'm like, oh, I remember this. Oh, I remember this. Okay, if this is the puzzle I'm facing, then I know I have to look this way. So it's been kind of wild to hop back into it. Almost feel like I never stopped playing God of War. But, I think I'll just talk about what's been the biggest surprise for me in the 8.5 hours I've spent with this game. And again, spoiler free, we can't talk about spoilers anyway. I think it's how this game feels so much more emotional than the original. This game is really diving into the relationship with Kratos and Atreus. And of course you have little Mimir's head in there trying to keep the peace between the two of them. And it's interesting to watch Kratos because you have Atreus, and teenagers are hard enough, but now you have a god teenager who's not only trying to discover who he is as a person, but who he is as a god. And watching 14-year-old Atreus, I think he's about 14 now, how much he's changed and how much their dynamic has changed. It's clear that they have not been to therapy since the events of the first God of War.
No.
There are still a lot of unspoken tension and issues between the two of them. But I feel like the opening hours have just focused a lot more on their dynamic and the emotions between the two of them rather than kind of the heavy action gameplay. I don't know if that was kind of your experience too, Andrea, but I think that's been really surprising to me. And I mean, I've enjoyed it. I think the thing about the first God of War that I loved the most was watching that relationship between the two of father and son grow and develop. And now, you're picking up after the events of God of War 2018, where a lot of stuff had went down, and both these characters know so much about each other, new things about each other, and they have this new sort of respect bond between the two of them. And now they're kind of thrust into this new interesting situation, and you have a teenager on top of it. I'm really happy that Sony Santa Monica is spending the time to watch the relationship grow and develop. I'm not sure if that's going to be a hit, though, with everyone, because it feels like some could consider it a slow start.
I see what you're saying, but I also think that we got some really intense boss fights and mini boss fights right out the gate in the first couple of hours. And boy, oh boy, does picking up the Leviathan axe feel like revisiting an old friend. It's so satisfying revisiting this combat that I loved so much from 2018's God of War. It's just as slick, if not more so, this time around. Of course, people have been asking, do you also have the Blades of Chaos at the beginning of the game? And yes, you do. I think in the first couple encounters, you are predominantly using the Leviathan axe, but I mean, the blades come back right away. I don't know if they're going to introduce more weapons down the line. I imagine not, but I don't think they need to, because these two weapons are phenomenal. And I also agree with you that I think it's great that they're really exploring this relationship. One of the things that really stood out to me about the narrative is that it's both super moving and poignant. Some of the lines about the responsibilities when going into potential war or potentially starting war, and whose responsibility is it to take care of the people who are going to be the collateral damage of the war, and the heaviness of what Atreus and Kratos are potentially walking into, this idea of what Ragnarok represents and what is Atreus's part to play in all of it, and who are they going to be allies with and who are they not. Some of the things that I think they're going to explore, as the story for the game unfolds, but also just some really amazing moments of levity, the humor that's sprinkled in, some of the one-liners that either Mimir has or Kratos has, because it's so hilarious to me how Kratos is like, and shout out to Christopher Judge for being just a phenomenal voice actor for Kratos, just deadpanning some of these responses, because Atreus is just like a jabberjaw. He's just talk. And a lot of times Kratos just does not even respond to his questions. He's just like,
Or he'll grunt, or he'll just say, ugh. And it's like, that grunt says a lot. Oh my God. Then Brock and Sindri making a return too, and the dynamic between all of them. It's such a smart decision that Kratos is surrounded by so many other characters, because he's such a man, a god, if you will, of such few words, and he's not very expressive. So these other characters really do just bring so much life into the narrative. And God, Kratos is a wise dude. And I know he's an old god. Okay, of course, he's been around. He's seen some stuff. He's done some stuff. But some of the things he says when, again, Atreus is jabberjaw, I'm like, that's really good life advice. And I stop and I ponder on it. And I'm like, I like that a lot. And a few of those lines, which I obviously can't repeat, are still are percolating in my head. And oh man, like, I said from the beginning, I said to myself personally, when it comes to Game of the Year conversations, God of War, for me, isn't competing with Elden Ring. Ragnarok is competing with 2018 God of War. Because that game just blew, I think, not only it had the element of surprise and blew all of our expectations, I always thought it was going to be really hard for God of War Ragnarok to repeat that. And I have to say, so far, I am just, again, like, all my expectations have been met. It's really doing everything I wanted it to do. It does feel very familiar. I haven't noticed anything that's been too brand new. And granted, like, I don't think we're supposed to get into that yet. I think this is supposed to feel like a continuation of 2018's God of War. So we're not supposed to be blown away with a bunch of new mechanics, or, we do have new realms coming up. That's been confirmed already. But yeah, it's just giving me those warm and fuzzies. And one of the first areas you come across where you can actually have some exploration, I just got that feeling in my stomach of like, oh, this is going to be so cool. Oh, this is going to be so fun. Getting on that boat and rolling around and seeing that sense of scale that Steimer talked about back when the 2018 one came out, seeing that manifested and actually playing through it, it's just kind of mind-blowing, the attention to detail I've seen so far in this game.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we always, like you mentioned, said that if we were actually going to look at what games are, going to be going head to head with Elden Ring for Game of the Year, that this was the one. And I want to remind everybody that God of War beat Red Dead Redemption 2 in a surprise win during the year that it came out. And I think it's very possible that Ragnarok could potentially beat Elden Ring just based off these early hours of the game that I've seen, because it's just so jaw-dropping. We're watching some of the trailers that Sony has already released because they didn't give us any gameplay, any new footage to release for this early preview. But when I booted it up on my PlayStation 5, I am playing it in resolution mode. So they have a performance mode and a resolution mode. So I typically don't tend to favor frame rates unless I'm in like a really intense boss encounter, and then sometimes I'll switch the mode that I'm playing in, but I like the high resolution. It's just ridiculously gorgeous. The modeling that they did on Kratos is out of this world. Like the skin textures, the fibers in his beard, the reflections on the axe and the blades as they're on your back. Like, it's just such a beautiful looking game, and it plays so smoothly as well that it feels like it's hitting all of those notes that 2018 God of War hit for me, of like, the game looks gorgeous, the game plays amazing, the combat feels good, and the narrative is so substantial it makes you want to just keep playing more and more. I've literally played 10 hours of this game in the last 48 hours. That's how much I want to keep playing, and I'm so tired. My body is just like, why did you do this to us? We have a child we are looking after. But I just can't put it down. And now I know people have questions about like, okay, but what's different? What's different about what they're doing in Ragnarok than what they did in the first game? And the biggest difference that I've noticed so far, obviously narrative stuff aside, is there's a lot more progression and upgrading that you can do both within the skill tree system and within the weapons system. So we had some upgrading, obviously, of the weapons in the last game. They're taking it a step further, and there's more upgrading to do. There's going to be more different kinds of armor sets that you can get from the different places that you visit throughout the game, and we'll have more to say about that when we have the final review deadline in a couple of weeks. But there's definitely more. There's more in the game. I'm surprised.
So much more. How are you enjoying the combat? Because let me just say, I think it's super fun. But I'm finding that there are so many different button combos that I feel like you can do, whether you have the blades or you have the axe, or if you have your runes equipped, that I sometimes forget. I'm like, okay, so if I want to do this, what do I have to press to make that happen? I think it's just I have to spend more time getting more adventurous instead of just button mashing. But I do love how it feels. It almost feels like I'm playing a PC game, because I feel like I have this gigantic keyboard of potential opportunity at my fingertips, but it's just a PS5 controller, because you can just do so many different things.
That's a really interesting notion of, how do you manage the combat, because they do have a lot more combos that you can unlock. And I do think the game probably could do a little bit of signposting with how you upgrade a little better, because I went for a couple of hours without doing any upgrades, and I had this massive backlog of XP points that I could have gone in and spent that I wasn't spending. But once you go in and spend them, you can obviously upgrade Kratos, both the axe and the blades, and then just his regular, kind of rage mode skill trees. But then you can also upgrade some of the moves for Atreus as well. So when Kratos is fighting with him, from the last game, you could command Atreus to do specific arrow attacks. So that is back, and they've expanded upon that as well, which is awesome to see that they kind of have a little bit of more interplay with each other, because he's stronger and tougher and bigger. He's a real boy now. And I just love it. I think I sometimes accidentally hit into some of these specialty moves, but once you learn them and remember, like, oh, if I hold down R1 with this weapon, it does this thing. And I like that the combos mirror each other depending on if you're using the axe or if you're using the blades, which is a nice thing to know. Like, oh, if I hold R2 with either weapon, it kind of does a similar style attack. But obviously the animation of what it does is very different because the blades have fire powers and then the axe is all frost. So it's a nice, like, complementary set of combat skills. It's just so fun. It's just fun to play. It's so rare that you get a game that has such cool, fun, interesting combat, beautiful graphics, and an amazing story. It's why God of War 2018 was a masterpiece. And like, unless they don't land the plane at the end of the game, like, from how it's going just in the opening, like, 10 hours or whatever, is like, it's going great.
Yeah. It's going to probably win my GOATY vote, but who didn't see that coming? I do want to briefly talk about, I think we talked about this during the break. Brie, I know you haven't played the original God of War. And as someone who played in 2018, I only played it once and that was it. There are mentions of certain plot points or characters, and I'm like, that name sound in Ragnarok, and I think to myself, that name sounds really familiar. So I'll do a quick fandom God of War search, and that has been immensely helpful because then it jogs my memory. But if you have not played the original God of War, you absolutely should before hopping into Ragnarok if you can find the time, because I can't imagine going into Ragnarok without playing the original and appreciating and understanding as much as I am currently.
Yes. They give you a little recap video that you can choose to watch in the menu when you first boot up the game, but it's brief. So if you really want a refresher, find somebody on YouTube that you like that does these kinds of recap videos, or an article that does a recap, because they don't give you time to breathe. They throw you right into the action. And if you guys don't know what happened in the last game, you're going to be a little lost, at the beginning. But I do have a couple questions, and then obviously if you do have questions, let us know, that people wrote on Twitter. The one that I got a couple of times was about the loading elevators and corridors. So the previous God of War games before the reboot were known for the kind of seamless world building and loading, and God of War 2018 had the same thing where we kind of had these corridors that hid the loading screens. Yes, those are back. And there are some short elevator sequences, but they're short because if you're playing on PlayStation 5, the loading is very, very quick. Now, neither Brittany or I tried this game on PS4, so I can't attest to how it runs on PlayStation 4, but I'm hoping that it's running great. But if you have a PS5, you should be playing it on your PS5. But yes, the loading tunnels and corridors are back, but I didn't find them to be noticeable.
Oh, no, they're so brief. If you didn't even know that's what they are, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah.
At the Foxblade asks, is summoning the axe back to as satisfying as the first one? The sound, the rumble, the weight, so good. Yes, it's even more satisfying because of the haptics and the DualSense controller. And let me tell you, Sony Santa Monica is putting those things to work.
Oh, it's impressive. I didn't even notice. I think I was sitting in the boat on a lake, and I had set the controller down on a little end table, and I heard like this bzz, bzz sound. But what the heck? It was the controller doing those subtle, vibrations that are built into it, and it was just incredible how incredible that is in itself. But I know you're talking about haptic feedback, but the rumble is just so freaking awesome. And the first time I threw the axe, it came back and it decapitated someone on its way back. And I squealed. It was so satisfying. I was like, oh my God, I forgot how fucking awesome this is. And it just feels really good. Now, is the ability to frost your axe, was that in the first one? I don't remember.
The Frost Awakening?
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called, if it was the same thing. I don't recall using that, but I use that a lot.
Me too. Now. It's really satisfying. So you hold up your axe, you hold triangle down, and it frosts your axe up, which gives it extra frost damage, and it's more powerful at that point. What's kind of fun about that is that takes time to charge up, maybe like a second or so, but the enemies can be very quick in this game. So I found a really good combo that works, which is have Atreus shoot the enemies as I'm charging with triangle, and it's a really brilliant companion system that's built in that doesn't feel obnoxious, and Atreus feels genuinely helpful. It's God of War. It's incredible. We all knew it would be, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could keep going, but I can't because
I know.
Yeah.
But Danny, do you
It's
have
all good.
questions?
Yes, Brittany. So which mode are you playing? You playing the resolution one or not?
I'm doing performance, but hearing
Performance?
Andrew talk about resolution, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to check that out. Yeah, if my frame stutters, which sucks because I play a lot of Switch games and all those games stutter and it makes me dizzy and makes me sad. But anyway, yeah, so playing on PS5, I didn't even give resolution a chance. I just hopped straight into performance, but I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
It seems like
usually
better.
usually I do that with games for PS5 and also on the Xbox. I'll put a performance mode more than resolution, and I have a 4K TV, so.
I think the problem I have is John and Andrew have the same TV as I do, so I should probably just talk to John, the TV wizard. But I feel like every game has to be tweaked differently to fit the TV because every game comes with its own presets, and so sometimes the TV wants to run the game great, or I don't know if it's the game that's trying to run the TV all wonky and weird. And so I just find that doing performance just tends to work better. But I should check it out because it's like there's game mode, there's non-game mode, there's this, there's that, and it gets too confusing. I can't wait till all this shit is streamlined.
And the settings inside the God of War menu system are diverse. Like there's a lot in there. You know, Sony as a company has been doing a lot for accessibility in their last couple of first-party games, and I'm not an accessibility expert, of course, but their accessibility settings are vast within this menu, and there's a lot of different things that you can do. There are 5 different difficulty settings, which is great, and so you can play it on like super baby-ass baby mode, or you can play it on what's called God of War mode, which is, you know, the most intense mode that you can start at and you can drop down from, but once you drop down, you can't go back up to God of War mode, which I thought was interesting. So if you start in God of War mode, the hardest difficulty, and you are like, okay, I can't do this, you have to start the game completely over again if you want to try it again.
Yeah, I think it's for trophies, right? Say that you're a badass.
Probably, yeah.
That's like a platinum, right? Platinum.
Probably.
I mean, I imagine. I don't know. I don't think that Sony would make you get the completion on the hardest difficulty to get the platinum. That seems like something they wouldn't do.
That's a challenge.
I mean, it's a challenge, but it also makes the game inaccessible to some people. So
yeah,
and they've been really good about, you know, not doing that with their first party titles, which I think is awesome. So we also don't know the full trophy list, so
that's all good.
TBD, Danny, onto what the platinum is going to be for this game. But yeah, there's a lot of options within the menu for people who are looking forward to that, and you know, I can try to capture some gameplay and release that once we are allowed to do so.
So as Brittany mentioned, I have not played through all of the first God of War, and I've gotten maybe like 3 or 4 hours in. And for whatever reason, I put it down, moved on to something else, which obviously is sacrilege at this point. But what would you both suggest for somebody who is maybe in a position like me, or who hasn't played it at all, or maybe they're just now finding a PlayStation and are interested in delving into this world and into this lore and into this story? Like, do we just like power through an easy mode? Like, should we really try to experience the combat at the standard level in order to prep for Ragnarok? Like, what's the best entry point for a newcomer to the series?
I think you can definitely start on the easiest mode or the second easiest mode, and then ratchet it up if you want more of a challenge. Or, you know, you could do it vice versa. It really depends on the type of gamer that you are, and also how much of the story you want to see. Because there is a lot of exploration to do. Now, this isn't a true open world game in the sense that, like, you have access to the whole of the world and you can just kind of like explore at your leisure. Like, that's not this kind of game, right? This is not like an Elden Ring in that regard. It is way more crafted as to like where the game wants you to go. But the game does give you the opportunity to choose a branching path at a certain point. Like, do we go to this realm or do we go to this realm? And what are we going to do in this realm? And I like that the game is like, hey, if you go this direction, you could experience these things. But if you go over here, this could be something you want to experience instead. It's up to you to choose how you are going to let your game unfold, which I really liked. And so it's up to you as a player to go, do I want to experience more of the story and kind of breeze through some of the combat encounters, or do I want to kind of really feel the meat of the combat? Because the combat is Mwah. The combat design is really chef's kiss. It's really good.
It is good. And I will say, even if you are playing, I remember from the first God of War, I think I lowered the difficulty like halfway through so I could get through the story. It still feels very satisfying. It's not as challenging. You feel more like a god. But I guess if you want to role play, it makes a lot of sense, right?
And very generous auto-save checkpoints. You can manual save at any point, but the game is auto-saving almost every 3 minutes. And in the accessibility settings, you can add in mini boss checkpoints as well. So even when you're in the middle of mini boss fights and boss fights, you can add in checkpoints during the battle. So if you fail and you want to go back but start midway through where you were, there's a checkpointing system with bosses as well, which I think is an amazing option for people who want to use that.
Yes, it sounds like it respects a player's time, which is, as you all know, is one of my biggest
Make it as hard and as challenging as you want, or make it as accessible as the game allows. And it seems like the game is quite accessible from what we've seen so far.
I can't wait to play.
It's really cool.
More to say on God of War in a few weeks, but there is other games that we want to talk about as well in the show today. Brittany, you got some hands-on time with Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Let me pull up my big-ass document of notes. Here we go. Yeah, I did. Yeah, so huge thank you to Capcom for flying my ass out to San Francisco so I could play this game. Oh, my God. So I flew all day, and I traveled all day to play 50 minutes of this game, and it was 100% worth it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. So Resident Evil 4 Remake. So for those of you who don't know, the original Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005 and is regarded as, well, obviously it was genre defining for the third person shooter genre, but also just in terms of, it was that pivotal point in Resident Evil's history. You had Resident Evil. Anyway, it was the first time Resident Evil kind of took like a turn for the different. It was, pretty. People had their opinions on the direction of the game at that point. I personally wasn't the biggest fan of Resident Evil 4 when it first came out. I missed the silent survival horror genre, the slow pace of everything. But I have come around to Resident Evil 4, and I have come to learn. Not to learn to love it. I have come to love it and appreciate it for what it is and understand how iconic this game really is. So when you have the task of remaking such a famous, well-known, highly regarded game, there's obviously a lot of things that can go wrong with that, but I'm happy to say I think Capcom is doing the absolute right thing by remaking this game the way they are. Resident Evil 3 Remake had some issues. We don't need to go talk about that. Resident Evil 2 Remake, on the other hand, I think was a masterpiece. So they are definitely going the Resident Evil 2 route when it comes to Resident Evil 4 Remake, which is 100% the right call, and I'm very, very excited about that. So this game is, quote, reimagined and modernized, which is preserving the essence of the original game. It introduces modernized gameplay, a reimagined storyline, and, quote, vividly detailed graphics. So it gives you an idea of what they're doing with this. So the opening of Resident Evil 4 is just so much, of the remake is so much darker than the original Resident Evil 4. And that, I think I expected that. The original RE4, now Danny, you played that one, right?
Which one?
The original Resident Evil 4?
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So you can relate to what I'm saying here. That almost had a B movie feel to it. Leon was really silly in that game. He had a lot of really fun, iconic one-liners. But that's hard because the events of Resident Evil 2, which is, that canon Leon, and then you have this Leon in Resident Evil 4, like RE2 is a very serious game. So how do you take that tone and translate it to RE4 when the original had such a kind of silly tone to it? A lot of, again, like silly little quips that Leon would make. He seemed a little bit carefree in that game. But again, in the remake, they're doing something much darker. He seems much more plagued by, no pun intended, by what happened in Raccoon City and what he went through. And he hasn't quite recovered from the trauma that he experienced, and that's very evident, and I think that really sets the tone of this remake. With that said, there are still some iconic quips that have returned, and there are some new funny one-liners as well that are making a comeback. So I would say if you're worried about the tone feeling a little not true to itself, don't fret. I definitely laughed a few times out loud, so that was a really big thing. another really neat thing they're doing, and I'm trying to keep this as spoilerish free as possible because I think you should experience this for yourself as much as you possibly can. Las Plagas is the bioweapon in RE4, and they're really exploring that as well and deep diving into it. And that's kind of what I've noticed a lot throughout my demo is some things like the Las Plagas infection or Ashley's disappearance or Leon as a character or Hunnigan or any of these things, they're being expanded on. And just in the 50 minutes that I did play, and granted a lot of those 50 minutes were spent exploring and, you know, Andrea is looking at the toilet paper of Resident Evil 4, looking at all the details in the game, and just kind of getting.
For toilet paper, folks. I
got a thing for toilet paper. You know, you have a thing for seals. I have a thing for toilet paper. It's fine.
Hey,
just
stop bringing that up.
Never. Just gawking at everything, and maybe I died a bunch from Dr. Salvador's chainsaw, but just kind of getting an idea of how much more fleshed out this story is going to be got me all hot and bothered and excited. And giving characters like Hunnigan more of a role, just from what I could tell, again, it's just like, this is how you do it. This is how you remake a game. And there's a lot of rumors and unconfirmed speculation about what happened with the development of RE4 Remake and maybe why it took so long, that the game maybe passed through a bunch of hands. But whatever hands they're in and whatever happened, just A+ decision on whoever was in charge of making that happen. The combat in this game is, quote, modernized. If you've played RE2 or RE3, you know what to expect. You have your D-pad where you can switch through the weapons. I will say the knife now has durability, and I know that's probably going to make a lot of people unhappy. So for those of you who don't know, one of the most iconic combat combos back in the day was run up to an enemy, or not run up to, shoot an enemy, roundhouse kick them in the face, slash them with your knife when they're on the ground, rinse, wash, repeat, you have a dead Ganado on the ground. And that was kind of how you could cheese through that game. But now that the knife has durability, I think that's really going to impact that. You know, I think speedruns are going to be really interesting to watch and see how people learn how the environments react to that. You can stealth kill the villagers now, which I tried to do many times, and I maybe failed a lot. The villagers themselves in the main village encounter, which is kind of like the most like holy shit moment, they just felt so grabby, and not in a bad way. It just felt more realistic. I think in the original, Leon felt much more quick and nimble, and in this one, you know, he feels like an actual like adult male. You know, he's heavy. The way he runs, you know, he's not in like a ballerina by any means. And so trying to navigate.
Just stop for a second and think about him in a tutu, running like a ballerina.
Listen.
I want to see that fan art.
I do too.
Yeah.
I want to see that. If we could get his face model to make this happen, OnlyFans, I'm just saying, I would pay for that content. But yeah, like, you know, as you're running through, it doesn't feel as quick and easy to dodge through all the village. They're going to grab you. They're going to shove you with their pitchforks. Dr. Salvador, the big chainsaw guy, is going to come at you, and he's going to chainsaw you, and it's going to be very painful, and you will die a lot. And so that, again, is just kind of a modernized version of Resident Evil 4, where it does feel more realistic. And I think that's the right route to go. What I always tell people is you're always going to have the original game. Same thing with Final Fantasy VII. You don't like where the remake went, guess what? You always have your original game. You're going to be fine. Same with this. Although I do anticipate a lot of folks are going to be very happy with the direction this game is going, I think some people are going to be like, oh, where's my suplexes? Where's my infinite knife durability? Where's this? Where's that? It's not a good fit for this remake, but you're always going to have that in the original, so calm your tits. That's just... Let's see, what else should I talk about here?
I have a question.
Yeah, no,
about
please hit me with them. Yeah.
Yeah, so how's the voice acting from the villagers? Because that was very interesting from the original. Are they still speaking Spanish? Is it a new...
Yeah,
new
there's
voice
new
actors,
lines.
actresses?
There are new lines, yeah, and I think a lot of it's very basic Spanish because I was able to understand most of it. I did take 4 years, 10 years ago, but I can't imagine my brain hasn't fully rotted by then. But there are some new lines. I didn't hear any of the iconic lines, but again, I only got to play through this once. And then it was mostly me just running around frantically trying to avoid the chainsaw. Leon also spoke some Spanish, which was very nice to see. And again, one of those narrative beats that I think makes more sense. Why would you be going somewhere where the primary language is Spanish and you didn't learn any? But it looks like he did learn some in this one. So
I'm glad I did that.
Right?
And actually, it's not fully Spanish. It's more Castilian.
Okay. So can you explain that? Explain the difference for us ignorant folks.
So Castilian is more like for example, like the sound of the S is different than the regular Spanish Latin America. So for example, I'll say sábado is Saturday. In Castilian, they will say something like sábado. Like it's like a weird, the accent is totally different.
So it's a regional dialect?
Yeah. So for example, car. For them, it will say coche. For us, we'll say carro. So like there's certain words that's it's not the same in the same Spanish word.
It's like English in the US versus
the UK. In the
Yeah.
UK. Something like that.
Yeah, different continent, different version.
Yeah. So Argentina and Spain are the ones that uses more Castilian, and the rest is just regular Spanish from Latin America and the Caribbean.
I want to talk about real quick before I stop talking about Resident Evil 4, the village sequence a little bit more. So I died maybe 4 or 5 times in the village sequence, which I don't know why I always die when the team is watching me.
Isn't it the worst? Going to
Oh, it's
preview
the
events
worst.
and they're like right over your shoulder watching you. And you're like,
Yeah.
stop judging my performance, okay? I
Stop
just started
judging. I
playing."
know I'm dying, and it's fine. And they're like, you can go in that house right there. I'm like, I know I could, but I'm trying to experiment. It's an excuse. I didn't know I could do that. Anyway, so the village sequence itself is just kind of known for being this super hectic encounter, and there's a few ways you can do it. And so I, trying to be the melee face tank that I like to pretend I am, try to just run around and shoot all the villagers in the face and clear it out. Well, that didn't go very well, and I got rocked, and I died multiple times. But what was interesting about it is that the way it plays out, and it's similar to the beginning, where there's a house in the village, friends, where if you enter the house, this famous scene plays, and you can run upstairs, and you can grab a shotgun, which you should. You need it. Or you can grab a grenade. And I talked to a few people who also played this, who was at the demo event, and everyone finished the demo event differently. They finished the sequence differently, and after the sequence was when the demo ended. So the way I finished it was I ultimately took down Dr. Salvador. And if you're like, who the hell is that? I know I've mentioned his name a bunch. He's the dude with the chainsaw. He's the dude with the sack over his face. And this remake, oh my god, he is absolutely terrifying. And he is more menacing than ever. So I actually ended up killing him, which was no easy feat, but you didn't have to do it that way. Someone else, what they did is they just survived long enough, and then what happens is the bell rings, and then everyone shuffles away, and then Leon has an iconic little quip that he says, and then another person never even went into the shotgun house and never even got the shotgun. Their encounter with Dr. Salvador played out a lot differently, and then they just survived until the end. So I know that was in the original game to an extent, but I'm kind of curious to see if that's going to play into maybe some future changes, that maybe there's going to be more choice and consequence in RE4 Remake. I mean, maybe not, who could say? But yeah, I mean, just overall, I'm really excited from what I've seen. I think this is being handled the way it absolutely should be. I think the deeper dive into some of those narrative beats that were kind of skipped over in the original is the right call, and I'm hoping this will. I love the B-movie feel of the original, but I think this might kind of steer into a true, more serious survival horror, pant-shitting, butt-clenching experience, and that's kind of what I'm going for. So yeah, like I'm very excited. March 23rd or 24th, I think, is the release date of this game.
Oh boy!
All platforms.
Yeah, I think so. Is it next gen only? I don't freaking know these things. Anyway, put me on the spot. I don't know.
I'm
about
asking.
Resident
I'm
Evil.
curious. I
don't know anything about Resident Evil. I know nothing about it. Oh yeah, okay. So it looks like it's PS4, Xbox X, S, PS5.
Okay.
But I don't know if they've announced it coming to Xbox One. I don't know if they've announced it coming to last gen of Xbox yet.
That time is slowly coming to an end.
It feels like it's time.
slowly.
Well, it's announced for PS4. It's obviously just like a marketing beat, and I'm sure after the showcase it'll be confirmed that it's coming. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited and happy for you. And
thanks.
I'll check it out. I checked out RE3 Remake.
I think you'd like this one more, actually, because it's more action focused. And obviously in the remake, I think it's gonna be a lot creepier. But
because I love Village. I was all about it.
Yeah, girl, we got that Village DLC coming too. Hey.
Yeah.
Can't wait to play that.
Gonna be fun. Well, you guys have both been playing some more games as well. There's a brand new game coming out, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Danny, you've been playing, and you've got. Wait, what is this that you have here? A fancy box. Is that like a swag box that they sent you?
Yep. I just got it today.
Oh, very
From
nice.
Ubisoft.
Did Ubisoft send that over?
Yeah, let me open this up.
Show and tell time.
Oh, isn't that cute?
Aww.
A little rabbit in his Mario outfit.
Yeah. My favorite. The diva.
I know. She's so good.
Rabbit Peach.
Oh my God. Peach Rabbid.
Also, there is a book. Also, it comes with like an art.
Oh, an art book?
With everything.
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
I love tactile books.
It looks pretty cool.
Nice.
Wait, why is not even open it? There you go. See, like, it's like a
Oh,
lot of
fancy art book. Very nice.
I have the game, which I can't show because the code.
Of course not.
Stickers.
Stickers.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun.
Ooh, ow, that hit my face.
See, now this is the thing I'm jealous
Oh my
of. That
God.
is amazingly adorable. So it's a plushie for everybody listening on podcast. It's a yellow star plushie. What's the official name of that? Is there an official name for that
Is
character?
it the tag or something?
It's I have to remember the name.
Yeah, so it's the rabid yellow star.
Yeah, there's there's different stars in the game.
Yeah.
So this is the,
I
this
just
is
didn't know
the
if that
yellow
one had a name.
I can't remember.
It's cute. It's
So-
real cute.
The dirt
Yeah.
star.
Demented
There's-
looking star.
There's this
The
and a
derpiest
keychain.
of stars.
Yay.
Yeah.
No, but thanks. I love Mario Rabbids. I love the first one. You know what, Brittany? I know you played this a long time ago. It reminded me of Super Mario RPG that Square made for the Super NES.
Okay, you got my attention.
That type of vibe, you know, it's
Yeah.
it's not RPG. It's more like an RTS type game. But I just love the story between Rabbids and also Mario, and it's fun. A lot of fun to play.
So
The
it's
first
interesting
one-
you say
yeah.
that because the gameplay of the first one's kind of what has me a little to play the second one. Has it changed a lot?
Yes, it's more open now. Now you
Okay.
have more places to go. Previously, it was only like certain spots, but this one it feels like it's wider now. The options that you have with the characters, and there's new characters too that you see in the game. Actually, Bowser's in the game too. You will play him too as a character, and there's a new one. His name is Edge. He's pretty cool. He's also a rabbit too. But yeah, the game is phenomenal. Actually, the first game, I experienced one of the best boss battles of any Mario game. Was on the first one too. It was like a musical battle with Mario Rabbids versus that character, which I'm not gonna say because I want you to just experience it. But it was more like an opera experience. It was really cool. So
Interesting.
actually, you'll see Edge if you go to my cam over here. Edge is right here.
Ooh, Edge looks like a badass.
Yeah,
Oh,
he has
yeah.
a sword, and you could throw the sword from far away. But yeah, it's really cool. Love it. But I haven't used the other characters yet because I only have the option to have 3 characters only. So it's Edge, Mario, and also have Luigi in there. So, but you could change it up whenever you want.
Are you going to get the opportunity to have more player or characters with you, or is 3 the max?
Yes. Later,
okay.
3. It's only 3, but later you're gonna get more characters as joining you as a group. But you have the options to choose which one of those from the group to be part of the 3 team.
Oh, okay.
Similar to Final Fantasy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Final Fantasy 7. Yep.
Hmm.
It's really good. Like I honestly, Brittany, I think you should definitely play this.
I've always
And-
kind of liked the vibe, but just the RTS gameplay of it just kind of took me out of it. Because when you said Super Mario RPG, I'm thinking, God, I love that world because it felt so, fantasy-like, and I could go anywhere and see anything. But I felt so limited in the first one. But by you saying it's more open, has me a little bit more interested.
It's a lot way more open than the previous
Okay.
one for sure.
Okay.
And the game's still funny. Oh my god, the rabbits are hilarious, very very funny. You will like it for sure.
Okay. Well, noted.
And you too, Andrea. I don't know if Andy is into RTS games or not, but
So I
You should
played
definitely-
the first couple of hours of the first one, but
Mm-hmm.
when it came out, I think we were just being pulled in a couple different directions, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody raved about their time with it, and I hadn't spent a lot of time with an RTS in a while, but I was like, if any game was going to get me into it, it's going to be this one because I love the Rabbids, the Raving Rabbids, and I love Mario. So I was like, this is like, the Venn diagram overlap of what I would want in an RTS. and I just never ended up going back to finish it. But it's on my list. It's just, you know, one of those things where it's like, how many hours in the day do I have to play this versus, you know, God of War? And also my Dreamlight Valley has been neglected for 2 days.
Oh no.
The Night Thorns have probably taken over. It's just like, what am I gonna do? I can't play all the games. There's too many games to play.
It's a lot of games. But see, like I want to continue playing more Rabbids. I just haven't had the time because of work previously, not anymore. Now I have more time to play. And so but yeah, I'm gonna play that a lot, and then I'm gonna focus on God of War for sure. Ragnarök after this.
Yeah, well, the other game that you two have been playing that I also have in my queue is Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, which just came out on Friday from Phonic. Friends of the show, the Willems, James and Elite are writers on it. And Ree, you worked on an event for the game.
I did. So shout out to Shannon Garrettson, who brought me on to help the launch event in New York, not at Comic-Con, but near Comic-Con in the time of Comic-Con, as I mentioned before. So yeah, Shannon is amazing, and she actually surprised me and put me in the credits of the game, which I was absolutely not expecting.
It was so cool.
Yeah, it was emotional. It was my first time having a video game credit with my married name since I met Danny. Yay! So that was very special and an otherwise really difficult week. So that was pretty great. But all of that aside, the game is fun, and I actually hadn't played it before the launch event. So Danny and I played with another former X-Play producer, Emily, also friend of the show, another person who's guested on What's Good, and we had a really good time. We had a couple of random matches with Greg Miller in it, which was pretty funny because, of course he was playing during preview time. But I did not expect to like it as much as I did. And that's not any disservice to what I expected. It's just we've seen Evolve. We've seen the Friday the 13th game. We've seen the Predator games. And, it's definitely a genre we've had a number of takes on. But for some reason, I feel so much more delighted every time I play this, even if I'm losing. And that's the biggest plus for me in asymmetrical gameplay is like, even if I'm not doing well, did I enjoy my time? Because, I'm a big stickler for like a game respecting my time. And if I'm not progressing, if I'm not, seeing any benefit to playing, if I'm not unlocking anything, or if I'm not enjoying myself, I get really frustrated. And even if I wasn't successfully trapping ghosts, or if I wasn't successfully haunting a building as the ghost, I still enjoyed it. So I am very, very pleased with the way this turned out. And I gotta say, I really enjoy being the ghost, which I did not expect. Yeah,
is it the vibe you think that you vibe with? The vibe that you vibe with? Because I'm watching this gameplay and I'm like, this just looks fun. It looks lighthearted. It looks like you said, if you're losing, oh well, who cares? You're still having fun. Where I looked at a game like Evolve and I'm like, that looks serious, and it made me sad.
Yeah. Evolve was definitely a little bit more serious, more gravitas to it, and this definitely plays at the comedy aspects of the original 1984 movie Ghostbusters, right? It's not a horror. It's definitely more cartoonish, more wacky, spoopy, and right? Spoopy instead of spooky or atmospheric. But the skill level is actually pretty impressive. Like, there's a lot of depth of gameplay as far as like how you approach as the ghost haunting a space, or as the team of Ghostbusters, the 4 people that you create and go in with, how you decide to try to de-haunt the place or tackle the ghost, or just calm down the passers-by and the bystanders, or if you're going to actively try to take out rifts that the ghost would use to respawn, or if you want to just go straight for capturing the ghost. Like, you have a lot of player agency in this format, and it's really impressive that Ilphonic's been able to introduce this depth of gameplay when it's still really so accessible and so fun. And I say accessible, maybe not in the terms as far as what the settings are. I'm, again, not an accessibility expert, but it felt very approachable and very easy to understand and fun to get in and start having fun like right away from match number 1.
And another thing I forgot to mention, Reed, this is also crossplay. And at that time we were having issues because I was playing the PC version and Reed was playing the console version. So we were just joining random matches and we'll end up playing together. But
nice.
Hopefully by now there's a patch where I could just go and see if there's anybody from my friend list from the Epic Game Store, check from there, and I can invite them to similar to like Fortnite, similar to like the names from there and consoles and everything. So, but the cool thing is when we went to New York City and went to the event, it's like maybe a block away from the firehouse where they filmed the original Ghostbusters movie.
Oh, cool.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
so we got to hang out with the firefighters there, and we got to check out the front and the inside. The inside part is not like the movie at all, because I think they were telling us that they filmed that in
Like a
here in
soundstage
LA.
somewhere, right? Yeah.
Somewhere else, yeah. But they use everything from the outside that's part of the movie. Now, the alley in between, right next to the firehouse, when you go and check that out in the game, it's exactly the same. So we were looking at it too in New York. I'm like, oh my God, because the developers were explaining to us about it. But it was a lot smaller in real life. This one is like way bigger. And that's the area where you could upgrade your weapons. You could also practice, because there's like fake ghosts there where you go. And I think there's a house also on the other side where you could also learn more about becoming a ghost and everything. So it's really cool. And there's a story in the game too. That's not like in Friday the 13th. I believe there's like 6 acts in there.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it relates to right after Ghostbusters Afterlife, like around that time.
So many games. Oh,
Yes.
man.
So many games, so few hours in the day. But hey, at least your kid watches you play some games now. That's kind of fun.
It's so fun. He did the cutest little Kratos impression today, and I was like, "Aww."
He's learning.
He is learning. He picked up Kirby the other day, and obviously he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but whatever the new Kirby is on Switch, I can't remember. Anyway, I gave him a controller, and he was just like jumping around, floating, inhaling, and I'm like, oh my God, it looks like you know what you're doing, but I know you don't. And then he tried to eat the controller, so I had to cut that. But no, it's fun. It's nice. It gives me a whole 5 uninterrupted minutes to play games. You know, 5 minutes.
5 brilliant minutes to, look around to your inventory for the thing that you want to wear. Or maybe that's just me. Oh my goodness. Well, this has been a jam-packed show, and thank you, Danny, for taking time to come to What's Good and talk about what you've been playing and discuss the news with us. You are welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Just come on over and hang out with us. You don't need to keep working with that Paris guy. I heard he can't cook or something.
Yeah, he's gonna poison you anyway.
Oh man,
just kidding. Love you, Paris. Just kidding.
We need to get him back on the show. It's been too long.
Yeah, I got to see him at the Kind of Funny launch event, which was really fun. Which, by the way, big thank you to the whole team at Kind of Funny for having me on the stream last Friday. It was a lot of fun. If you guys missed the shenanigans, it's up on their Twitch and their YouTube channels. Boy, what a long day that was. Somehow I ended up playing Fortnite with Andy, Mike, and Nick at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, why am I doing this? What's wrong with me?
Isn't Mike just a gem?
He is like the gemmiest of gems. He's just
he is.
And he kept his energy level like the same the whole day. I was like, I don't know how you're doing it. He's like, I don't either, Andrea Renee. And I was like,
I don't
so
know.
impressive.
He carried that stream.
I'm very impressive. Yep.
Yeah. I also loved watching him eat eggs for the first time. That was very informational.
I didn't know that he had never eaten eggs before. I was like, I felt bad that his first egg experience was IHOP, like to-go eggs, because like eggs are not good to-go food. Like,
Nope.
How are they cooked?
A variety of
several
different
types.
ways. Yeah. So. Not fresh though. None of them fresh. So hopefully he doesn't swear off eggs forever because of Anthony Carboni's mistakes. But it is what it is. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out with us at the end of the show. The next couple of weeks are going to be a little different than normal because we're going to be traveling, but Britt's going to be here next week with a special guest. And the week after that, we have a special episode that we are pre-recording and we'll be uploading. And then the week after that, everybody, we are celebrating a big episode. Episode 300. Can you believe it?
I'm proud of you girls.
Thank you. Thank you,
Not
Danny.
easy. Not easy to do. So I'm proud of you.
It is not indeed. So we're hopefully going to have some fun shenanigans if we're not just exhausted for for that episode. But let us know if you guys have any fun memories that we can include in that episode. You can email us at contact@what'sgoodgames.com. Leave us a message on Patreon. Of course, tweet to us at what'sgood_games if you're not following us there. It's gonna be fun. And then boom, it's a downhill snowball to the Game Awards and the end of the year, man.
Oh boy.
Man,
Hold on
this
to
year
your butts.
flew. This
Right
year
Right around the
flew.
corner.
Strap in, everybody. All right, that's it. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye.